Hi. I'm very
Hello.
excited to be joined by Sasha Molochnikov, the director of Extremist, which is a fantastic Oscar-shortlisted short film. And he is a theater and film director from Russia, from St. Petersburg. Hi.
Here.
Thank you. It's an honor. It's an honor to have you. I truly love your film. Thank you for taking the time. And as we discussed in advance of this recording, we somehow have 17 questions for a film that is only 17 minutes long, but we think that works. We really hope everyone watches the film. And so let's jump in.
Sure. I'll try to keep my answers to 40 seconds so that it's
Okay.
another 17-minute film.
Okay, perfect.
Let's
Okay.
go.
So, Extremist is set in a very specific political time and place, and yet it's very intimate and emotional. How would you describe it in your own words?
It's a film about neighbors, two girls that love each other, and one of them really feels the climate around change because Russia just invaded Ukraine, and an old lady who lives next door. And that protagonist, Sasha, who is sensitive to soldiers getting drafted every day, young guys, and the Russians bombing Ukrainian civilians, changes price tags in a grocery store to put information about the war in front of people in a grocery store as they buy cheese and sausage. So in the design of the price tag, she changes it, like the amount of people died in this city, 400, etc. Amount of years Putin is lying to us from 25. And the old lady reports on her, not knowing she reports on her. She just reports on someone because she sees the price tag is weird in the store, and gets eventually our protagonist Sasha imprisoned for 7 years in a Russian jail. And so it's inspired by true events that happened in St. Petersburg, my hometown also. And I guess it's a story of courage and amazing, extraordinary bravery, because what Sasha does further in the film is a huge act that I would never be able to do myself.
And you actually succeed so well with the storytelling and the performances and the writing and directing, but we'll get to more detail on that. Although the film is set in today's Russia and under Putin's authoritarian rule, for safety, you shot in Riga. And I wonder how changing countries impacted your filmmaking process, because obviously that adds another layer of challenge for
Well, yeah,
you.
for safety, and because it's not, being over cautious. We would definitely get all arrested if we filmed a movie like this in Russia. So it's for safety. Not in Columbia University where I studied, and this is actually a Columbia thesis film. They forbid us to film people running or like having knives in the shot or riding a bicycle for safety. So that, I think, is being too safe. And in
Yeah.
our literally, it would be definitely not safe for anyone to film this in Russia. We filmed it in Riga with a great company, Forma Pro Film, that is actually just doing magic. And it's hard because it is a post-Soviet country, but it's a totally different country with another language. Everything on the street is different. So you kind of can shoot here, but can't shoot here. And we spent a lot of time prepping, actually, 2-3 months, I think I spent in Riga all in all, for a 5-day shoot. Just going around the city a lot and finding the locations that look very much like Petersburg, and people, also faces. We went on into the market, into the street, to just grab people and suggest them to film. Lots actually were happy to film even for free because the subject really made them feel something. And we looked for people with Russian faces. And then the actors that we casted, which some of them are known in Russia, actually, we really tried to mix up in our big board. And
It works. It really
thank you.
works. Yeah. So the young artist, central female character, she's punished as an extremist simply for swapping supermarket labels, as you've said, with anti-war messages. What did you want to reveal about how authoritarian regimes weaponize language to criminalize these kinds of basic acts of conscience and truth-telling?
Well, in this specific story, we focus on the absurdity of it, because she got 7 years for changing 4 price tags, 4 little pieces of paper. The one case I know that's more absurd is a protester going on a square with an empty sheet of paper and also getting arrested. She got 7 years for nothing, and in fact for spreading the truth, not any fake news as they made it seem. Yeah, I think absurdity, brutality, stupidity of the system that becomes so Orwellistic 1984 vibes,
Yeah.
horrible. And at the same time, it's not a strange dystopian cinematic world. It's a very real world that's happening. And I would say, and we can talk about that later, that, what seemed as a far niche Russian story when we were filming it is now, as I screen it in US, and in many cities becoming more and more an American story.
It is so relevant. I hope Americans will all watch this story and learn from it because, yeah, we're very, very close to that level of absurdity and everything we're witnessing and
It changes
hearing.
every day.
Yeah, it changes every day. So your protagonist is actually very sweet and loving and good, and yet the state defines her as dangerous, which, as we've just described, is totally absurd. How did you work with your lead actress to balance this moral clarity with her very real fear and the risk she faces every time she speaks truth to power? And let's just say you've cast an incredible actress and she's in the film Beanpole, if people haven't seen it. And brilliant, brilliant job. Both of you. Yeah.
Well, we rehearsed a lot, and especially, the last speech, which is a real speech from court. It's so easy to trip into something fake in terms of acting. So easy to do it too pretentious or not enough real. And then also, actually, you can't go stick directly to the truth because in court it would be said in a bit of a boring way, I would say. It's sort of people just read it off a paper, and in a film you try to change it and make it here and now. And that was the goal. Like, what if this happened to you here and now? Put as much of yourself into there as you can. And I think that that's the key. When you imitate somebody else doing it, it's one thing. If you try to, as Stanislavski said, what if, the magic what if I was there? That's basically what we went with. And honestly, in whatever form I worked in, I did ballet and opera and theater and
Yeah. And you're an actor too, so maybe that helps with how you communicate with actors.
back in the day.
You're in their shoes. You should still be acting. I did
Thank you.
glimpse you in the supermarket. I saw you walk by.
There was just nobody there. People who were doing it wrong each time. I just said, okay, let me do
You're
it.
great. It's good. It's good. It's a good cameo. So this old lady neighbor, she initially seems really harmless and even kind, and then she's the one whose phone call brings the police. And I wonder what you were interested in exploring in terms of that kind of everyday complicity, how an ordinary person, a neighbor, can become the mechanism by which a dictatorship enforces its repression.
Oh yeah, I think that is actually what inspired to film the movie. I heard about the story of Sasha changing price tags a year maybe before we started developing the script, or less, but a while before. Galina, the neighbor, she struck me. I read her interview or some comment where she said the words that our character says in court. I think the court should decide how much they get, but I would just give her a whip. And I was like, oh my God, she didn't even for a bit have reflexia that she put someone into prison for 7 years and took away, their freedom, their youth. And I thought, these people living next door to each other is a short film. And I think that it's very important for people everywhere that the reporting on each other is something that, we do in very different circumstances. And Americans are pretty good at that too. Times we feel like, oh, we should report. It's the justice, we should be part of the law. That's wrong. We should talk about it. But involving the government into solving your own problems is sometimes necessary, yes,
Yeah.
but sometimes it is definitely the base of any dictatorship.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't even wanna go into it, but I've studied that for a long time in China and Taiwan's military dictatorship. I'm very familiar with this.
Well, I would also study it in, honestly, in very liberal universities in US or
Yeah,
schools. It's
yeah.
strange that the culture of reporting, it's interesting because in Russia, reporter is a curse word. Stukach, it's called knocking, to knock on someone.
Oh,
It's because post-Soviet
yeah,
mentality,
yeah,
even people who do it now, they don't admit they are knockers, so-called. And for some reason in
interesting.
the US, because because the police in Russia is always a criminal. It's always
Yeah,
been that. They're always bribed and et cetera. In US, police used to be much better and, they appear very quickly and they are, there is court, there is
yeah,
justice.
right.
It's not as corrupt, way not as corrupt. So I guess here
Yeah,
reporting doesn't have such a bad reputation, but it is a horrible, it is a very dangerous trick.
yeah, and there's actually a moment in your film where this old lady neighbor tries to undo the damage when she first realizes that the person who she didn't know she was reporting is this sweet upstairs neighbor, this young girl who she thought
Yeah.
was so sweet. And then when she goes into the police station, she discovers that this upstairs neighbor has a girlfriend. And then her sense of guilt shifts into her homophobia, basically. And she's allowing this prejudice to come forward in sync with the authoritarian system. Is you had to figure that all out, or yeah,
You said it all. Yeah.
yep,
This is the script, of course. The
yeah.
real character, I don't think she went anywhere. But we wanted to
Wow.
create a less, one-dimensional character and have her have a little swing. There is, though, you don't have to, when you're retelling a real story, you can put, I think, qualities of one character into the other. For instance, the prosecutor, the investigator of Sasha's case, resigned. He, after
Oh,
this
wow.
case, quit the job. So
Wow.
I would not, make it so black and white.
Yeah.
We did do that because we just didn't want to have too many characters with a complicated story in a short film. So we gave
Yeah.
some of the qualities to her, trying to rewind it and call her report off.
It's so good. It's so effective, actually. There's so much nuance and so many twists and turns in the storytelling and the filmmaking. It's great.
Thank you.
So I wonder if you want to talk about how the revelation that the protagonist is gay is a turning point, because in authoritarian regimes there is no tolerance for LGBTQ and people are persecuted for that. And it's like the state goes right into their intimate lives, which is something I feel in your film you give us such a great sense. I mean, you've created such wonderful characters and we're so with them. They're so dynamic from the beginning and their personal lives are so beautifully rendered. And then the state is like, should be nowhere near their business and yet is going to punish them.
Yeah, we have that scene in the train when they hold hands among people. We didn't want to lean too much into, let's say, an LGBT film because I think you don't want to sort of play on each topic. We kind of focused on the system versus human here. Sasha and Sonia, who inspired this story, are together still. And actually, it's a little spoiler, but today we will have a very unique and fragile event for me. Ben Stiller, who's an EP on the film, will host a screening here where I'm at, and Sasha and Sonia will zoom in from Berlin because Sasha got swapped and she's out of prison now. It's a
Wow.
separate thing, yeah. But they
It's
will
great.
talk to Ben, which I'm very excited about. And they're still in love. Their love won over this case. They stayed together. They didn't know they'll get swapped. Sasha spent about 2 years in prison and
Okay.
they're together building a new life in Berlin. So I think it's just about love. And yeah, it is important that it's love of two girls who can't feel completely free in Russia for sure.
So this relationship, their love story, is a counterweight to the brutality of the state, and that makes the punishment all the more unbearable. But you've just given us a sense of hope that they've overcome and their love has brought them through this horrible punishment. But I actually think it's a very important kind of crux of the story. It's a very important thing to understand the difference between that brutality of the state and the love that happens between people on an everyday, ordinary level. Maybe that's just something beautiful in your film that you capture that makes it all the more worth seeing. So, we've talked a little about this absurdity of the disproportionate punishment for changing labels in a supermarket. And you did base it on an actual case. So, what do you feel about how the laws in Russia target this kind of extremism?
Say that since I left in 2022, I saw the shift. It started in 2010, 12, maybe even right when Putin came. Putin came into a very democratic country in 1999 where everything was allowed. First thing he did, he returned the Soviet anthem. Then there were the governor's elections canceled. Then the Freedom TV station NTV was shut down. This is all the first years. Then
Yep.
the war in Georgia started in 2008. Then the war in Ukraine in 2014. And each of these wars, of course, brought more and more censorship. The Georgians were kicked out of Moscow. I'm kind of retelling Trump's years in US, no?
No.
The other TV stations were closed. Then the whole TV was only propaganda channels by 2012. Oppositional were cable and it was still, you could still get it. Protests were allowed. Then only one people protests were allowed. Then
Right.
protests are now at all allowed. And now people are afraid when there's somebody unknown in a company of friends, they're afraid to talk about what they think
Oh
because
my
there's
god.
of people reporting.
Right. This now feels uncomfortably close to what's happening in the United States, and I wonder if having experienced what you have in Russia and having left around 2022, right, with the invasion of Ukraine, if you have any particular feelings about where the US is going? That's a new twist on
Well,
that question, but
first of all, I wouldn't be too dramatic. US is still an incredibly different country from Russia, of course. There are states in US that are opposed to presidents, Mamdani winning at the same time with Trump being a president is something impossible in Russia because there is no governor or any politician in Russia that does not fully obey what Putin says. There is no
okay.
resistance of politicians to politicians. It's all going one direction. So
Okay.
there is no election in Russia at all. And so far in the US, there is. We don't know if there's going to be a new one, but so far there is election. There are different, there's Congress, there is different powers that can suppress one another. But as we saw, even though he can take decisions on his own and get a president out of a different country, I don't even know what to say about that because it's so new to the world's history. But yeah, I think the Minneapolis, what I can say is more emotional. I'm not a politologist, but what I saw in Minneapolis is identical to what I saw in Russia because it's also in the snow. People getting brutally arrested for protesting in the snow. Is
Right.
Russia 2020, Russia 2021, and Russia 2022, all the way till the war started.
Yeah. Do we have more guns in America, though, than you have
Oh
in
yeah,
Russia?
I'm sure. Guns are not,
That's definitely
Russian civilians are way not as weaponized because guns are not
yeah,
allowed. So it's a
right.
very different thing. I think it's more
Yeah,
dangerous in one side and less
yeah,
dangerous on the other side.
yeah, that makes sense. You've spoken a little bit about the courtroom drama and that scene, but as a director, was it challenging to capture kind of the banality of the institution and then the enormity of what is about to happen to our main character?
The courtroom scene was probably the most challenging because I've been to those courts. But what was amazing is that the extras who came were all people who also left Russia. And they also have been to those courtrooms. And when we saw their eyes in the lens, we looked at the DP with each other. And the DP, who is a great cinematographer, that's a separate conversation, was like,
Yeah,
whoa, because all the eyes of the extras were so engaged with what she was saying behind the camera in her
yeah,
speech. So not only that Vika is such a great actor and she got them, but also I guess on some association level, they very well knew where they are.
yeah, yeah. And we don't want to give away the confetti.
We can, we can do whatever we want. But I can just say it's a very unexpected psychedelic ending, right?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Um, and is it the same kind of courtroom as in the Pussy Riot documentary? Because it was bringing that back to me.
Yeah, all the
Yeah,
courtrooms are the same in Russia. It's
yeah.
very boring, very dull, very I know the smell of them. They smell with some
Ugh,
some some cafeteria downstairs that's boiling some onion soup.
ugh, yeah, ugh. Um, so Putin's regime lives on this propaganda, especially now around Ukraine. How did you and you've described it so well, but in reality, but in your film, how did you visualize or want to suggest that kind of omnipresence of propaganda in everyday life and for all the characters?
I was lucky to witness it. I don't know how lucky, but I was in the summer of the war, I was still in Russia and I was filming a TV show in a provincial city. And I
Yeah,
saw a woman who was working at the reception. She had the TV on all day and it was nonstop. Such crazy propaganda where the host is like casually talking about a nuclear war, casually talking about dropping a nuclear bomb on US, and she was listening into it like it was music, Conversation of something undescribable.
yeah,
And yeah, we had actually more shots of the old lady watching the TV, Galina watching the TV.
yeah.
Sadly, there was not enough time in the 17 minutes.
What you have works. It's memorable and it stays with me and it's
It's
effective.
zombifying. It's
Yeah,
zombifying.
yeah. So your protagonist refuses to stop speaking out? I mean, there's a chance that she could kind of silence herself
Confess.
and wouldn't be punished, and yet she doesn't. So I wonder what your maybe how you spoke to her about making those decisions? Was it just based on the case? I'm happy to know that she is now out after 2 years and reunited with her girlfriend, but I don't know, was it a character who couldn't lie to themselves? I mean, you said at the beginning, and this is an interesting
Yeah.
question, could you put yourself in their shoes? Would you make that decision yourself if it were you? I think we all wonder watching your film.
So basically, the fact that she didn't go back, step back, and didn't take her words back and stayed with what she believes in is the big act and the big, action of the character in terms of the script. Dramaturgically, she makes a choice not only to change the price tags, which is sort of a joke almost, but to not give up and say that beautiful speech in court, knowing that it might cause her years and years in prison, how many. And that is something I definitely wouldn't do. I think I would do anything to avoid getting in prison. I don't know how bad, it's scary to think about it, but
Yeah,
I can't even imagine, what this oppressive machine does to you psychologically. We've read about it all in the
yeah,
Nazi Germany, in the communist USSR, in Cambodia, how people, beg for forgiveness and save their life. And it's easy to talk about this, and we never
yeah,
know what we would actually do when we're told to sign some paper or go to prison, even for 1 year.
yeah, I agree. It's horrifying actually to think about that. You've spoken about this old lady neighbor, and her final testimony in court is devastating because she's been so shaped by the propaganda. I wonder how you hope audiences in Russia, Ukraine, and here and elsewhere see her and what they should feel about her. Because in some ways we feel empathy like she's been, I don't want to use the word brainwashed, I just said it, but she's been absorbing this regular propaganda and she thinks hers is a state she can still believe in, that there's an authority. Actually, in the context of the US, I was just having this conversation about how it is that people don't question Trump. And I think it's because for many, whether it's that they're watching too much Fox News or they just don't vote, but that they would even condone anything he's doing is because there's this ingrained deference to authority. Anyway, I think you did a very good job, as you said, of none of your characters are simple. None of them are totally black and white. Everyone has complexity. And so even this character who's getting who's punishing our main character, I don't know what you wanted the people
I
to
think,
feel.
I think it's with any society and any people, and within US, I would honestly say both right or far left. I would say critical analysis, ability to critically analyze the information you receive
Yeah.
is a rare ability, and it's easy to brainwash someone. I've been
Yeah.
told honestly pretty great insane things in Colombia that, like, I don't know, that I'm a white straight male and that's why I will never understand a single script about Asian life, and like why can't
Right.
I love Asian cinema, I don't know. So I've heard
Right.
also some crazy stuff from the other side too, to be honest, as a Russian coming here. Anyway, it's very hard to form your own opinion and
Yeah.
really try to also sometimes, you know what? I started really trusting people who say,
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about this yet. Everyone who had their strict opinion on what's going to happen after, Trump got into Venezuela and took Maduro didn't get any of my trust because this
Yeah.
never happened. So
Yeah.
how are you so smart that you know what does this mean and what the consequences will be?
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
people, even political analysts who say, this is something new. I don't know how to comment this yet. I
Yeah.
really, I listen to them,
Yeah.
and I listen to them thinking, and I think together with them. So I think like loving people who try to analyze, try to compare, try to bring up comparisons to other historical events. Those
Yeah.
are rare.
Yeah, and I think actually the older a person gets, like, the neighbor is very old, the one who knocks and reports on our main
Yeah.
character, right? I think older people tend to get more stuck in their beliefs
That's
or,
true. That's true. And I
and
think the biggest fault that is on us, my generation, is
yeah,
that we let the TV win their brains over what we
yeah,
could have told them. And that's my personal guilt. Like I'm not a fan of communal guilt in
yeah,
general. But
Yeah.
this is what I do feel guilt for. I feel guilt for not talking enough to my grandparents about
Oh.
what is really going on and really trying to affect them, you know?
Yeah, that's well said. But we'll make sure everyone gets out and sees this short film. And you have this high level support now from executive producers, as you've mentioned, like Ben Stiller. You're Oscar shortlisted. I wonder if this visibility is changing the life of the film. The kinds of conversations you can have, the audiences you can reach. I'm sure you're reaching many people who know nothing about Russia and Ukraine, or eventually you will reach that kind of wide audience.
Yeah, I think that it's more important than whether, we get awards for this film or not, to really deliver the message of political prisoners that are still in Russia. There are Ukrainian political prisoners in Russia, Russian political prisoners. There's over 1,000 of Russian political prisoners, and those people should just be released. And whatever the negotiations are of Trump with the Russian administration, Belarus just released their political prisoners.
Yeah.
And think that if we do, we will try doing a screening in Congress. We are discussing that, and that would really, hopefully, we will do what we can to affect the reality. Sometimes I think art can affect people's mind more than a news outlet or a real video on Instagram, because art gets into some subconsciousness.
It does. I loved your short so much. I honestly could have watched it as a feature, or I would happily watch it turned into a feature. I don't know if that was in the back of your
It's
mind, but the
written. I
feature
hope to
is
do
written.
it in the summer. Yeah.
You have a feature script written.
That's true. So far it's three separate stories,
Yeah.
and I will just say that the other story is about a political prisoner, Zhenya Berkovich, my friend, who's a theater director, and she is in prison still, and she's doing theater in prison, and they are taking that away from her day by day.
Oh,
But it's some incredible ability to keep doing art in whichever circumstances you're in.
yeah.
And the third story is about a deserted soldier who ran all the way from Putin to Mexican border to get to US and got
Oh my God.
into an American detention center for a year and is now deported back.
Holy moly. That sounds incredible. I want
And
to see this
it's
film. Brilliant. And you're shooting, you said
yeah, we,
you've
we will
already got a plan?
shoot in Riga still.
Amazing.
And it's I think
Congratulations.
it's someone Ted knows and you maybe know, Alexander
Yeah.
Rodnyansky is our producer on that.
And what has he produced? He produced movies that we've loved.
Leviathan, Loveless,
Leviathan.
all Andrzej
Yeah.
Beanpole,
Yes.
and lots of US films, Orphan that was in Venice last year, and many, many
Congratulations. That's so well deserved. It's so amazing sounding. I wanna see it.
about this yet.
Oh, okay, an exclusive. Awesome. Well, let's, make sure everyone who hears this and wants to be involved will finance it. I assume you need some financing?
We have more than a half, and yes, we do need the other half.
The other half of the financing. Okay, let's see if we can make that happen. Thank you
Thank you.
so
Wow,
much.
Vanessa,
Thank
you're
you for
incredible.
your time. No, you're incredible. This movie is amazing. Again, I really hope everyone sees it. And, is there anything we should tell them about where to watch it?
Yes, it is on YouTube, on the New Yorker YouTube channel, in the New Yorker shortlisted shorts. So it's also on the Oscar portal.
Yes, fantastic. Well, enjoy the rest of your day in New York. I know
Thank you
you're a
so
busy
much, Vanessa.
person, and this was really great.